Welcome everyone. My name is Stephen Jennings, and today's webinar is we're going to cover some 15 tips from administrative point of views that will definitely help your existing CRM system. So some of these things you guys may already know about, or some new things that hopefully will help you as far as managing the systems. And of course, if you have any questions, please let me know through the questions area. I'll do my best to get back to you guys as quickly as I can. As always, you can always email me directly. So I'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Stephen Jennings. For those who have spoken with me or have not, my email address there is steven.jennings@aresgroup.com, so aresgrp.com. I am the CRM practice lead at Affiliated Resource Group. I'm using CRM over 6 years. Done lots of implementations from 4.0 to 2011, 2013, and coming up soon, 2015. So for those of you who may have gotten emails about upgrades, if you have questions, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you as you guys are in flight of doing some upgrades. So what are we really going to cover today? So what I really want to cover is the ribbon bar. A lot of you guys from 2013 have seen the ribbon bar, and you're probably going, wow, it's just a lot of stuff up there. I really want to clean it up. Things you can handle through security, but there is a way that we can go through and customize it ourselves through reordering it. Modifying the quick create forms. A lot of people have seen those about them, so we're going to cover those, talk about some business logic on the forms, talk about creating multiple forms. Many times people ask me questions, hey, I'd love to make a change to the form, but I'm not quite ready to publish to the world. Guess what? I could take existing form, I can clone it with a save as, we'll process that, make all our changes, only let the administrators look at it, and it's a great way of having multiple forms, but it's also a great way of revamping forms when you're in a production environment and you don't really have a good sandbox or staging area. Talk about field level security, about creating business processes and editing those. Bulk record deletion. So those of you who've had CRM for a while and really want to manage your system, or basically you need it up, we could talk about bulk record deletion, set up the duplication rules if you haven't done it. We'll talk about workflows. We'll talk about real-time workflows. We'll talk about solutions. So for those of you who do have a sandbox, and basically what a sandbox is you're in online, Microsoft has given the ability for you guys to basically take your environment and clone it, and play the environment, test things, new functionality, and it won't affect your production environment. So a lot of times you make changes and you're like, well, how do I get that from one environment to the next? Well, that's a solution. So we'll kind of cover solutions a little bit. Auditing. Just want to make sure you guys understand the auditing, the power of it, how to use it, because it can be very useful, but you'll watch the logs. It can also eat up a lot of data. Security roles, some best practices on handle security roles, and talk about adoption dashboards and charts. These are very good from an administrative point of view to find out, are people even using the CRM system? This can be very important as we use it. So basically now I'm just going to go through the demonstration and walk through it, and if you have questions, feel free to ask or save until the end, and we'll go through it. Basically, I've got my demo environment set up. It's kind of like our sandbox world, but this is an on-prem environment running 2013. Moving forward, all of our webinars will be using 2015, but this will be the last one on 2013 for you guys. Functionality between 2013 and 2015 are the same. For those who are still in 2011, you still have a lot of the same powers and tricks that you guys can do today. All right. So the first thing we want to cover is customizing the ribbon bar. So there is a third-party toolkit. I did not write this. So CRM toolbox on CodePlex. This is an open source area that people put a lot of things. So there's a lot of tools on here for CRM. What a lot of these developers did is they actually bundled up this whole toolbox of multiple functionalities in here. So this is a very nice feature. Again, Affiliated did not write this, so if it breaks, I have no control over the source code. But I've been using this for over a year or so, been very successful at it, and the developers that did it, we appreciate them doing things for the community. All right, so this right here, you guys can go ahead and download it. I already had downloaded it. It's basically a bunch of DLLs, but what you're looking for is the XRM toolbox. I'm going to load it real quick. 2011 and 2013. It will work for 2015 when the time comes out. The developers will probably be working on it very soon. So right here you get a bunch of features. First thing we want to do is we want to connect to our org. So log and save. So go ahead and save, and we can connect. So we can just edit real quick. So being on-premise, you'll use the IFD. If you CRM in the cloud, you'll hit CRM. You just put in your email address and your password. We'll say, get our organization, because you may have multiple organizations that you're working with. Go ahead and see tabs our org. All right, the O1 demo, the one I'm working with. You connect. And while this is connecting, when I talk about the site map, I'm reading about this: sales, service, marketing, settings, help. And in sales, you've got dashboards, what's new, activity, counts, context. So what I'm really talking about is I want to change this. I want things to the left. I want to move things to the right. But I create a whole new section instead of sales, service, marketing. I create a brand new section, and I can start adding things that are very important to me. So why this is important is because as we have these, there's a lot of scrolling you have to do left and right. So I got so left and right. That's just a lot of information in here. So you only care about 8 out of the 20 there. Now security does handle it. So if you're not using quotes, you uncheck quotes. I can't see it. But times it hits accounts first, and I have dashboards first, and I got to move it around, and it's kind of a pain. So you may ask questions. Well, guess what? We can manipulate that with the toolkit. Toolkit I'm basically launched into it, so I'm going to go all the way down to Sitemap Editor. I'm not going to cover all these, but if you want to look through these, very powerful. I'm going to look at the Sitemap Editor. I'm going to load my sitemap. And of course, they've got a little donate if you wish. Again, deleted, not write it. But great tool. So over here, you've got your SFA. Your SFA is sales. S, we can do that. S is cut service. A is marketing, settings, and help. So you see how the areas, that's what I have in there today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to act like I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to click on Sitemap, right mouse click, and then you can't really see that, but we'll do it, and we'll say Add Area. And we'll give it an ID. We'll just call it Test for now. You can actually create an icon if you want to, because you can see right here, you see these little icons right here? You can create your own as well. I'm just going to do blank. One called Test. I'm going to hit Save. Now you can see my areas in there. And what's nice about this feature is to really remember about the contacts, accounts, and things like that. I have a section called Add Default Sitemap Group. And tab that says CRM 2013 or 11, whichever version you're working with. And you're like, well, I really would like to add my customers now. And group customers, we're going to say OK. This is the group. So you got area and you got a group. Now, nothing inside of it. As you know, it's the sub areas. So you've got a section here. Areas, this section is if I go here, you see my work and customers. Each one of those is a group. You have to have a group. You have no choice. Customers, then I'm going to add a default site map. We'll just make it simple. I'm going to add accounts. Add again default and contacts. You have the ability to add these manually if you want to, just by adding a sub area and doing all that. But the default site map area is a great way of adding reusable things and moving them around. But contacts first. I'm going to select my contacts and hit the up arrow. Next, and now I have accounts. Now that I have this in here, I'm also going to move my area to the first because you know what? I want it right in the beginning. So I've got test, sales. I'm going to update. This will basically save it as an XML file that you can use on your hard drive. It's a great way of backing it up before you update it. Again, if you guys can test this before doing it in a production environment, I highly recommend it. It basically means to publish your changes and move them to the environment you're currently on. So I'm basically pushing my changes and I can see that. What I need to do is I'm just going to hit a F5 on my keyboard to completely refresh my screen. So we'll see there. And it says unknown. It's called a test. But unknown, I've got contacts and accounts. In here, I give it a good description. We'll call it test and test. We'll save it there. Date again. All right, so then we'll hit F5 again. So as you make changes and you have the Outlook client, it does take about 10 or 15 minutes for it to refresh, but it will refresh and it'll definitely give you the ability to see some of that new functionality in the Outlook client as well too. So there's test. So now under test, I have my customers and I have my contacts and accounts. It's powerful, the sitemap editor. I had to edit the XML file and look at the nodes, and it was very painful. Microsoft had a lot of great documentation, but again, very painful. This toolkit is another great way of accessing the ribbon editor. So highly recommend it. You guys can clean it up. The very common question I get is how do I change the ribbon? Because as you guys know, the buttons are big and you cover them. So easy way to do it. I'll show you in here, just kind of talk about is the record replicator. At any point you want to make a change to active contacts, and you're like, I want to make that the same. So if I'm looking at right here, active contacts, I've got full name, email, company. If I make a change to one of these, and you realize there's 10 more I've got to make changes to, it could take you 2 hours to make those changes. And it's very tedious, painful. So this toolkit, another one I like to use, called the View Layout Replicator. Limit entities, which is account, contacts, leads, opportunities. So say contacts, you pick primary, so I could say active contacts, full name, email. I go here and I could check the boxes of the ones I want to update, and I could save the views and then publish. So what that does, it says, okay, all this view in here updated. It does not change the filter. You have my active contacts and you have active contacts. It doesn't change the filter, which is the query, but it changes the header record of the view. So a great way of keeping them all in sync and saving a bunch of time. All right. Excuse me. Just going to go ahead and close this out because we're done working on this one. The next thing I want to talk about is the quick create form. So we'll go through and see at the quick create. Kind of like people use it, some people don't, but with the smaller version. So if I go to the account, and I can see some information here. A lot of times when you're making edits to a form, people forget about this. And you're like, oh, the two don't match because you've added custom things or some required things. Forget about it. So you always want to kind of keep the two in sync. To do that, we'll go to our settings. We'll go to customization. And we'll customize the system. It's our massive solution that we get to customize. I know a lot of you may have been here, or if this is kind of new to you, this is just a great way of seeing everything that you have the power of from an administrative point of view. So we'll go to entities, and your accounts, and go to forms. Forms, you have a couple of main forms. The main forms are what you look at today. So if I go to tests, I'll go to accounts, account one. This is my form. If you ever see a drop down where you have account and information, that means you have multiple forms. You can switch between those. You actually have forms that are security based. So if you have one group that says, well, I want it to look this way, another group that looks this way, the data is the same, but they just kind of want to see it differently. You can create forms, and then you can have security roles control which ones the user logs in. As an administrator, you get both, and you're going to have to switch between them because as administrator, you get everything. All right, so if we look at solutions, mobile, so if you need to make a change to the mobile form, we have the quick create form. Under create form, it's just like the normal form editing. About this is if you ever written JavaScript on the main form, you can still apply those changes here. It does not matter. You can apply them both. What you cannot do is business logic on the quick create forms. That is only on the main form. So these ones have some limitations. So you can't do the business logic that I'm going to show you in a little bit. But what you can do is just like the others is you kind of add, remove, change, drag, move things around. So it's always nice to have dual screens. You can look at the account and add the information in here. You not add everything. You add the most critical information that somebody would want to add quickly. You'll note I don't have any of the social things, not a lot of the notes, not a lot of the related contacts. This is just, what's my critical information that I want to do to create an account record. So just make sure you guys can use this and, of course, save and publish, and we kind of play with it. So that's about the quick create. If you have a new custom entity and you don't see the quick create in there, you can always create a new one. It's not there. I believe under the account entity, you have to check a box that says allow the quick create, and it will show up. So just as you create a custom entity doesn't mean it's going to show up on the top. So you may want to figure out which ones you want. So if we scroll down a little bit on the entity, and where it says allow quick create, if this is checked, show up this section. If it's checked, it will not show up. So if you have custom entities you want to bring in there, you just got to make sure that box is checked. Okay. Through forms, creating multiple forms, and business logic. So double click on my account. You want to make subtle changes. So for example, I want to make a change to this account screen. I'm not quite ready to publish it. You can do save and you can do the preview. We're pretty good. But if you have a lot of people work on administration, or if you hit the publish all button, guess what? Everybody gets the changes. So if you really need to have it reviewed by the group committee and you don't have a sandbox, or you just want to make some minor changes, you can always clone it. We would do a save as. So basically it says, you know what, we're going to clone it. So I'm going to call account 2. Give description. So we'll say clone of form. Okay. see where it says account 2. Here is the name. So then I've cloned it successfully. And make some changes, like, you know what, maybe we don't want something over here, we want to move it on this side. And then say we'll have this section move in the middle. And so we're just basically, I'm moving, just to keep it simple, social pane to the right, contact right in the middle, and we can test that. So we'll hit save, and we'll go through the enable security roles. So this section right here talks about enabling security roles. This will tell me which security roles she allowed to this form. When you're building it for the very first time, it will display to these security roles, administrator and system customizer. Those are the only two roles out. So if you create a form and you publish it and your users are like, well, I don't see the new form, because you got to make sure it says display to everyone. So we always make sure when you're ready for everyone to see it, box that says display to everyone. This will then show it so everyone has the ability to see it. One talked about, maybe you only want certain people to have access to it. You can say, you know what, I'm just going to check the box, and we'll just we'll reopen it. I just want salespeople and administrators to access it. If you have the salesperson role, you'll see this. If you don't, then you won't see this new form. So if you had two different roles, you wanted two different forms, one for each one, you can do it that way. So doing security roles against it. So we'll say, okay. Add that, we can save and we can publish, and then we can see how it looks. We'll always hit save and then publish. Otherwise, you won't see your changes. So, I'm going to count in the record, and I should be able to see my new form. That the original form that I was on is the same. Now see, come on, account 2. Want to switch to account 2, now my default. If I close and I reopen, account 2 will stay the same. So remember, if you are switching forms, you turn off the old one as well. So, for example, here, you see how I've got 3 main forms. You can pick the order you want. Good for your new users. If you have existing users who are using accounts and know you made the new form, you publish it, you got to make sure you disable the old form. If you disable the old form, they will be able to see accounts. They're not going to see the account 2 form you just created. So if you are creating a clone, you're making all your changes, gets approved, and you're ready to publish it, you got to make sure you disable the old one, which would enable the new one by default. Fresh. Next login, or as they bounce out around, it should take care of it, clean up the forms for your users. But as we go through this demonstration, I'll make sure we can refresh. Okay, it's loading. And see account gone. See, yep, account is now gone because I disabled the form. I recommend disabling information too, so you only have one. So you can clone them, you can sign the security roles, you can take a look at it, you can test the forms. When you're ready to make it published so everyone can see it, just disable the one that everyone's used to, and then actively start seeing the new form. And there's really no training, or you have to go to all your users and say, hey, can you switch? Disable it, and then the only one they can see is the one you just created. So a great way of pushing it out there if you need to do it during the day or during the nighttime, easy way to do it. Okay. Talk about business. So within the system, we have the ability to create business rules. So I would say this is, JavaScript for people who are not developers. All the time, been developing for 15 plus years just because it's super easy. And one thing I love about it is no matter when you guys upgrade, it'll work. It's the way Microsoft highly recommends, a great way of doing it. In 2013 and 2015, we'll say new, we'll see a business rule. They'll say if let's pick on the facts. So name we'll call facts for name condition. So we can pick basically on the field. So I'm going to pick on the facts. Ways of doing this one, I could just type in the word facts, and it was for everything that contains facts. Go down the list and just find facts in here, and there's like 250 of them. So I'm going to search for facts. Okay, and equals a field, so you can say if a fact equals something. But what I'm really looking at is, you know what? I'm going to say if fact doesn't contain any data. So if it's blank, do something. Okay, check the box that says, okay, there's my first condition. Action would be, okay, what do I want it to do? If it doesn't contain data, show an error message. I can set the field value. So I can say, you know what, if it's blank, set to a certain fax number. Well, I just want to make it required. Again, now it's not smart enough to know I meant fax up here, so again, we're going to have to type in the word fax. You've got to add just one fax, two fax, or just fax, and make it business required. And we'll check the box. So fax does not contain data, so fax as required. Okay, got it? Let's look in the right fax. Yeah, the right fax. We'll need to activate it or publish it. Not detailed in the business flow. More about it next month. When we talk about some of the upgrades with new enhancements, we'll go a little deep dive further into the process of it, because I can actually spend a whole hour on this if we ever needed to. But I'll show you some simple things that we can do. I'm going to go back to accounts, and we'll open up a new account. Hopefully it has no fax number in it. All right, there's fax. Now fax is required. On the form, fax required. So I can make fax required here, or I can build a rule based off of it. So the rule will be very, specific. If for one that could be useful is if you're working on an opportunity or a quote, and you have some types. Is this hardware? Is this software? That I want to set the price list based on that. Well, based on that value, you can default a price list, so that as the users are selecting it, they don't have to spend an extra step and default the price list. Or if they are picking certain states, maybe you want to default the country to USA, or also have the country default to USA based off of the currency. many ways you guys can do things in here. So the works is we can default that. Now, things work today is they require you to do them as an AND statement. They do not allow OR statements. So facts, or this, or this, or this. Guess what? I got to build 4 different business rules. Yeah, there's a way to do the OR statement in a single one. So we would do a save as. All right, let's keep asking me. So we'll get fact number. So you could clone business rules. Do a save as. Everything the same, and I can tweak it a little bit. So if you did need to use an OR condition, you didn't want to have to recreate them from scratch each time, great way of doing it is copying the business rule and then have it in there. Look, I can go in here, and I have 2 business rules. One's for copy facts and one's for facts. What's nice about these business rules is I can have a business rule on each form. Unique business rules for a specific form, or I can make a business rule that applies to all of the forms. So multiple forms you can apply to all, or a single. So that listen, and we'll go to business rules under the solution. I have 2, and my scope is based off of count 2. You can create a new one. If you ever create a new one from this section, you're right here. All forms, account 2, information account. So you define your scope specifically to a form, or you can define it specifically to the entity itself. So if you want to make one that blankets across 3 forms, if you want one specifically on the count 2 form, you can build your rules as well. So you can define scope. It's a great way of doing it. All right, so we'll go ahead and end that. The next thing we're going to talk about is field security. This is since 2011, but we'll talk about it just because it's a great way of doing it. A lot of people go through and say, you know what, I want to make Kindle's on me right now. Close it and reopen it. Okay. So a lot of times people go through on, especially an account, they're like, you know what, I want a credit limit and credit hold to be only my accounting department to access it. What? You cannot make existing field a field level security. You can only make custom fields. Now they are changing that for 2015, but a lot of people have already done this, so we'll go ahead and continue. So we're going to say new field, just create a custom one. We'll call it credit. We'll make currency. Right here is field security. I'm going to check that. I'm going to say close. Over here, we'll look for all of our custom fields. Okay, I got my credit limit. So I'm going to add credit limit here. Move this old one. Now see there's a lock. Lock on the screen tells me is I have to have a specific role. Now if this is all you do and you publish it and you push it out there, well, as administrators, you can just fine. Else, all they're going to see is 3 dots. They're going to be frustrated because they're going to be like, well, I don't know what the credit limit is. All I see is 3 dots. Thing we have to do go all the way down. If we go back to our solutions, we can go to Field Security Profiles. Testing it would be going under CRM Settings and Administration and Field Security Profiles. So both each the same way. So as administrators, they get everything. So what we didn't have to do, specifically say, we'll say credit limit update. That's the easiest way to do it. Is you can just add a team and say, hey, this team can access it, but you have to manage the teams. We'll user, so I'm going to say add user, and we'll pick Chris. And add Chris, because I'm going to say Chris is the only one that can access it. Then field permissions. All right, now it defaults credit limit in here. It says read update. Recreate is all no. But since Chris is in the accounting department, I need him to do everything. So he can read it, he can update it, and he can create it. So he gets everything. Okay? So this has the power to do the updates. Everyone else still can't see it. So we make sure we give them read access to see what Chris makes the updates to. I'm going to bring one. We'll credit limit read only. So then I add all my users. But the easiest thing you guys can do is add a team and pick your org, whether it's CRM, whether it's specific to your company, pick your org. The reason why is because as you add new people in the company, you do not have to go back to the security role and add those people, because 10 times you're going to forget. I do time, so from here on out, I always create a team, look at the team. When read-onlys, I grab the entire company that I want access to it. We go to field permissions. We're just going to give them read. So now they can read whatever Chris updates. So remember, you got to have 2 field level security profiles for every one, because you need one for the person who can update it and the other one for the person who can read it. So you got to have at least 2 in there, because otherwise they get 3 little dots. Now, you don't want them to see anything. Just leave the 3 dots and it'll look like a password. Okay. Simple. So we got our 2 in here. And always make sure you name it so it makes sense, because you go back to a year later, you're like, what do I do? So always try to make sure we have naming in there. Okay. So, about bulk or deletion. So, big things about administrative that only administrators can do. Have the power of deleting all of your data. Now, as you get your cloud system up and running, your data starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The worst thing you guys can have is attachments in there, but attachments are very important because attachments eat up space. Emails. Every email that gets tracked, whether they have a signature or a PDF, that attachment gets in the CRM system. So if you have 5 gigs in the cloud and you use 3 gigs of it, I guarantee 2 gigs of your data is just attachments to emails. So one way you can do it is you can go through and do some bulk record deletion. Now, there's pros and cons. The pro is I can just basically delete everything. So if I want to basically purge old emails, I can do that. The downside is maybe I want to keep the emails but get rid of the attachments. There's no functionality to do this. Now, at Affiliated, we wrote a tool that will go through and purge attachments, link emails during date ranges. So if you guys need something like that, just shoot me an email. We can talk about it and figure out ways we can kind of help clean up attachments. So leave the email, but just get rid of the attachment. So you can keep like a year's worth of information, but maybe past that you just want to purge all the attachments and see how much data you save, you can do that. So give me a call or give me an email if you got questions on that one. But as far as the bulk record deletion, create this. I went through and purged some emails. I got a bunch of letters in there, so we're going to purge those. This is basically a little wizard. I'll look for letters. Because I'm actually letters in here. I'm going to practice deleting. Okay, so what this will say is active status contains data, and I can preview it. What I'll end up doing is it will go through and start deleting hundreds of thousands of letters for me. I can do it by date range if I wanted to, do by filters, I can do by owner. These are created on all the same dates. It's kind of hard to do that. But so you can say was created on or before 11th. And I get all that information in there. And then just leave it. We'll say next. And give me a name. But what's also nice is I also have the ability to create a job that runs every so many days. So if you need to purge data out of your system and you don't want to run this job all the time, CRM can actually have this job run every 30 days. So if you're pumping in a lot of data that you need to use, but you don't need it all the time, you can put in the data in CRM and then purge the data after maybe you've done some analytics against it. So you have the job run every 30 days, every 90, every year, so you can create jobs. You can also get an email that you're notified to be done. And basically, it's the review, and we can say submit. So it's going to now create a job. We need to purge all the data. This job takes some time. When you're purging data, it can take some time. It can take time for your cloud system to recognize the free space. So if you purge a lot of data today, it may take until tomorrow before it really recognizes the space savings. But give it time, it will get updated. Okay, so that's pretty easy. So it's about making sure we have our records, we have our duplication detection rules, because a lot of times you get data in the system that are duplicated and go through and purge all the data. So the easy way of doing it is we're going to create some rules. What's the rules that are out of the box? You can create as many rules as you want, and you can create them on custom entities. So if you've created custom entities and you wanted to add those, you can do those as well. So ones that we have today, we have account name. If the account name matches, now good, different. The rules are specific. You got to make sure the name is spelled the same. Now, case, lowercase does not matter, but if you have, affiliated Inc. and then you have affiliated comma Inc., they are the same. But to the computer, it can't tell the difference because one had a comma, the other one did not, so it does not detect it. So the detection works as best it can. Wonderful ones that you guys can use is contacts that have the same email and leads that have the same email, because a lot of times while somebody may accidentally spell it wrong, you can do it by email address. Usually those are unique, and so a great way of doing it. You can also use one for email address on accounts. There's not really one on accounts because, you're really not emailing a company, you're really emailing contacts or leads. The duplication ones, we can also create a new one if we wanted to. Wizard's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty powerful. So name, we'll call it, I don't know if we have one on opportunities, we'll call it op for now. And go to the opportunity. And you can say case sensitive, so you want it to force it to be case sensitive or not. You can match inactive records. So if you have, you want to create But if you want to look at open, or you box. Get unchecked. Exclusive, yeah. This open, we can look at open and close. Either way. Say, you know what? Let's do it by topic. Topic, first characters, last characters, and we'll do that. Ignore blanks. So 2 blanks. Leave. Push. I want an opportunities where the topic is the same name. Let's go ahead and we'll do some testing on that real quick. And then opportunities. Mike, one more content. Sales. Previews. New. We're going to keep it simple. We'll say the word test. And got one in there. So I'm going to say new again. And we'll say test. And we'll hit save. And duplication detection warning. This allows you to say, you know what? Hey, look, it already found a record in there. What do you want to do? You can delete the record. You can do something with it. There's really no merge capability at this point, but you can force the save, or the user can say cancel. So the duplication detection will come up. It works leads, accounts, opportunities, everything. So if you have this on and your users are still creating duplicates, guess what? They can save. Cancel them, but you know that they're physically ignoring the rules that you put into place. So then you can go talk to them. Excuse me. I realize there's a duplicate, so I can say cancel, so I can change the name and hit save again, and then saves correctly because there is no test 2 in the system. So, great test. Right. That's pretty much a bit about the duplication rules. One more thing I'll show you is you run. So can you create the rules? You can go run a job, and it will actually tell you all the duplicates out there. So if you're like, you know what? I'd like to know all the duplicate accounts that got created that I need to go do some cleanup on. So we go next. Entity. Now here's 5 entities: accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, social profile. It looks at your jobs. If you don't see one in here, guess what? You don't have a job for that entity. You got to create the job first. Run this over here. So you got the rules there before you can run the job. Contacts. And we'll next. And next, we'll say submit. What it's going to do is it's going to run a job system and let us know if it has any duplicates based off the email address. Now this could take time, so I recommend do something else. We can look at it. It will not merge the data for you. It's your report of the duplicates. Then you have to work those duplicates and merge them because the system is smart. It doesn't know which ones you want to keep and which ones you don't because there is no unmerged capability. So I want to make sure we have that ability. All right. Look at the processes are going to show us our workflows. So we have the ability to create workflows. A lot of these are still the same from the 4.0s to the 11s to 2013 to 2015. So you're still going to have in the system. And work start. So it's your basic stuff. Run in the background. You can do it on demand. You can run as a child. Create, status change, records change. You can update records. So base flow, name convention that we always make sure is you start with the entity first and you name it as we go through it. So very simple process is creating these. Now with the new version, you want it real time because when these workflows run, they take up to a minute to run behind the scenes. So if you're expecting it to be happening quickly, it may not. So one is you want it to be real time. So here we can convert it to a real-time workflow. What this means is it runs as soon as this rule detects it. So I go through and I say, oh, this changes. There is no delay. It doesn't wait 30 seconds. It doesn't wait a minute. It doesn't wait until resources are ready. It runs right then and there. What's nice is you can say, I want the user who made the change because administrators, we create all these workflows. They're under our name. How do I get rid of that? Real-time workflows, you can now make it run as the user who made the change. So if Chris made the change, guess what? It's going to say modified by Chris, not Steve Jennings, because I'm the one that created the workflow or the CRM admin account. So we love this new change that's in here. It's as simple as you can convert any existing workflow. So if you have a workflow that's been out there a while that you want to convert, just save it, convert it, activate it, test it. I'll make sure you test. So creating those in here. Same thing, it should runs immediately. Close. So that's pretty simple on how to do those. Again, business process rules. So we'll go through here. We'll say new. Process that you guys see on the leads and opportunities. You can always create your own. So we'll call this lead. Let's say business process flow. Lead. New enhancements in 2015 on this, so that'll be fun. You can see it's starting at the lead stage. So this point, you can pick your stages, you can pick your steps. So you can have, I think, 20 stages and 30 steps in each one. So you have a lot of flexibility and build this on. So you can build those in there and save it and activate it and clone existing ones. Again, you can define it by the security roles. So great way of accessing business processes by security rules. So if you have two groups, they want two different processes, guess what? No big deal. You can just enable it with security. Let's go to about it. We play in the sandbox, we're working on it, you've got all the changes, you got QA department reviewing it, they like the changes, and you're like, how do I get it over? Well, the way to do it is we'll go under settings, under solutions, new, the name. I always like to call, production, rate. So it creates the name for me. Publisher should be one. Sometimes there's more than one. Version, we'll call it version 1. Save. Now a blank solution, and at this point I can bring in my entities that I may have made changes to. So I can go in here and say, you know what? I made changes to the account entity, so I'm going to add an existing entity. Accounts, you can grab many. I'm just going to grab account for now. I'm going to say OK. So now, this point, it's going to say, you know what? We have things that are related to this account. What do you want to do? Do you want to bring those in? Bring those in. So I'm going to say no, because it's a lot of extra stuff. And I'd have made changes to those. Maybe somebody else did, but I'm not quite ready to bring them in. So, you know what? I just want to bring in the account entity. I'm comfortable that I think all these things are going to be in the production environment. Say OK. Account entity. I've got one thing in there. I can add web resources, JavaScript. I can add security roles. I can add reports. I can add dashboards. I can add all kinds of things to the solution. For now, I'm just going to create this one. So I got a solution for my production release. I'm going to export my solution. What this is going to do is going to ask you some questions. we found missing. I'm fine with that. We can say next. We want some system settings. We don't know those. We'll say next. Now, part right here, you got unmanaged and managed. Now, this works is if you have an unmanaged system, they're black. You can't undo stuff. Managed solution, it's like a prepackaged thing that you would buy from a third-party company that you can install and add updates to. This is good, but it has some limitations to it. If you ever need to take your production environment and bring it down, you cannot edit a solution. You can only edit unmanaged. So until you kind of have an understanding of managed and unmanaged, I would always keep it as unmanaged because I can clean up, like if I made a mistake and it didn't quite get in the system right that I expected, I can clean it up and move it in there. If I have managed, I can't edit it in the production environment. I can always have to do it in the sandbox and bring it up, and I can never bring it into the sandbox if I ever want to refresh it because you cannot edit a managed solution. It's very painful to switch the two if you ever had it. Unmanaged, so we'll say next. We're getting close on time, so I'll try to kind of roll through some of these. The rest are kind of pretty simple. Version, 2013, depends on the service pack if you get it. Next screen, you're probably looking what just happened. Give it time. What it's doing is CRM is creating an XML file, and it will zip it up for you and provide you a download link. Even though it looks like it's not doing anything, give it time. It will happen. I've got my download link. I save it. I'll just put it on my desktop. We'll save. And then ready on your production environment, you'll do an import. Import that solution. Production release. Just import that one I just did. Next. And then, yep, there's my packages. We'll say next. And actually do the import. It will take everything I did from the sandbox and put it to the production box. Great way of doing it. Next I'll show you is auditing. That would be under here. So if you want to detect who's not, so you turn on auditing. You can audit user access. I cannot audit what they're touching, but I can audit if they've logged in. I cannot tell you how long they've been on there, but at least you can find out who's been on there today, you know, having a lot of activity in the system or none. You can also start auditing the common entities, which are accounts, contacts, properties, and start tracking all the changes. And what's at the administrator level, you're the one that can see it, so your users will not see it unless you give them the security rights to see the audit summary logs. Then you look at the audit summary view, and you can start seeing everything that's getting audited. So you can see everything that's being changed, updated, who did it, changed by, all the cool stuff. So you can see everything that's happening in the system. Okay. Look at secure roles, and then I'll show you some adoption dashboards, and we'll call it a day. All right, security roles. Biggest thing I can always recommend is never use the out-of-box security roles. We'll clone them and customize it from there. Reason because as Microsoft updates your system, they give you some new functionality that you're not quite ready for your users to use. Guess what? If you use an out-of-box role, their users will get it. That's is clone it, so we'll open up Salesperson and copy it. Do not create one from scratch because there are some underlying things in these security roles that you cannot edit. So always copy something similar. If you're doing a marketing one, copy a marketing. If you're doing a salesperson, be a salesperson. Don't do one from scratch. And then you have it ARG salesperson. I always like to put the org name or the company name there. Then start editing. Great way of saying no one has the ability to delete. So I'll take that away. What I'm doing is if you hit the delete, you hit it once, hit it twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, all gone. Same thing with this way. You can click these, great way to make it, or you can go through and click on these. That means you can't see it. The Pac-Man means it's a user. The half moon is a business unit. Pac-Man is parent-child relationship, and the green means everybody has the power to see it or create it. So look at the security role. I'm the one that can create it, everybody see it, and everybody can write it. That's not usually what you want. You usually want something like, I can create it, I can write it, I'll let everybody look at it. In the pen too, you're going to be emails, phone calls, attachments, all stuff. You want them to work and add those, but I don't want them making changes to my record. They can add phone calls to it all day long, but I just don't want them making changes to it. So that's fine. It's pretty easy. All right, so last thing we'll show you, and we'll call it a day. I'll show you an adoption dashboard, because as administrators, you get people using the system. So what to find out is you can poll users and say, hey, are you using it? Or what I always like to do is I create an adoption dashboard. Well, who's using it? Who's my top user? Who's my not? This is kind of a simple one. We can get more in depth if we needed to. I can tell you who your top salespeople are, who your worst salespeople are, and what's going on. So look at this information. I can see new accounts by month. I can see a trend. I look at this. I can see September was big, October not so good, November nobody did anything in November. This team, no, we're not getting a lot of new accounts. I go over here and I can look at new active contacts by person by week. So I say, oh, there's Stephen Jennings. I can see what he did for the week. I can see what Chris did. I can see what James did. So it's a great way of seeing their peaks and valleys. Another thing is new activities. See, in September, I did a lot, on in Geneva, and then it kind of trickled down a little bit, so we're not seeing a lot of activity. But again, it's a great way of seeing the activity. You can see the trends. You really want to see it keep increasing, or it's a steady flat line. People are doing 200 activities per week. I see that information. So if you got questions on the adoption stuff, let me know. We can always, go further into it. But adoption dashboards are very important from an administrator point of view, because it lets you know what your users are doing. If you're not using the system, it's not successful. So we can always figure out, okay, they're not using accounts, but they're using contacts, leads, and opportunities. We're using accounts, or they're not using this custom entity, or they're not using this. We kind of track that information. So the charts are going to be very helpful. This shows activities by the due date and closed, and what's going on. So I know a lot in an hour, and I appreciate everyone being here. So if you guys have questions, please let me know. This is just kind of our basic info, our website, our phone number, our info if you're curious about some future things with us, our YouTube, our LinkedIn, our Google accounts if you're ever curious about it. So this will be posted on our YouTube as quickly as we can get it on there. We have other nice videos. We got some new ones coming up in Q1. We kind of have them all mapped out. We've what's new in 2015 coming in January. In January, we're going to talk about social listening in CRM, great marketing tool. It's just kind of a fun tool that people can figure out of how my product is being perceived, or maybe there's some interest and you're trying to figure out where should I market towards, or should I attack. This is Twitter, LinkedIn, blogs, Facebook, all this information, and we'll gather what people are talking about. It's kind of like Twitter with hashtags. And the one in March, we're going to deep dive into cases. So we're going to do case escalation, case management, things like that. So we're going to deep dive all into those. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. We are going to end it, and I thank everyone for attending, and have a wonderful day and a great holiday. Thank you very much.